Well, joining me now is historian Sir Anthony Seldon, journalist and friend of the Queen Consort, Petronella Wyatt, and author of The Windsors at War, Alexander Lama. Welcome to all of you. Alexander, let me start with you. It just struck me that this is very good for Rishi Sunak. If you're trying to get your deal through, positioning the new monarch of the United Kingdom as somehow supporting all this is great politics, great optics. It's not so great, though, if you're King Charles, in my estimation, and you want to make a statement about impartiality, which is what his mother was, of course, renowned for.
But what I think is very interesting is that the call didn't come from 10 Downing Street to bring in King Charles for the meeting with Ursula. It was from Buckingham Palace.
Do we know that?
We do know that.
Right.
It was said yesterday that this is from Buckingham Palace, not from Downing Street.
Which is really, to me, even more problematic, to quote the word of the millennium.
I think it's deeply problematic because I think that what essentially King Charles is saying is, no, I'm bored of being on the sidelines. I want to go into the centre. I want to have my voice heard. And this is the man who, as you said a second ago, was the Black Spider memo man. This is the person who's always wants to have his voice heard. And now we can see that his sitting down with Ursula for their cosy tea together is something that essentially he's saying, I am involved in this. I want to have...
Well, Petronella, you want to get involved in this. And
I do want to get involved. First of all, I'm interested in what you say, but this is not quite what I've heard. And as we know, that the monarch cannot meet a political leader without the PM's permission. I heard that... it did come from Downing Street and he was happy to do it. And he is simply carrying on.
I mean, either way, look...
Wait a minute, can I just finish?
Yeah, you can, but I want to just on that one point. I think either way, the fact is he did it. So whether it came originally from Downing Street... Charles has been around a long time. Here's my point, though, before you finish. My point is, it doesn't really matter, actually, to the optics. The optics are, he did the meeting.
Yes.
And this, in my opinion, Petronella, it flies in the face of his vow not to get political.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't, because he cannot avoid meeting political leaders and hosting them. His mother hosted monstrosities. She hosted Robert Mugabe. She hosted Nicolae Ceausescu.
That's very different.
It's not very different.
I'll tell
Because
you
you're
why.
implying that Charles, by hosting Ursula von der Leyen, is somehow sanctioning a pro-EU...
I'm saying if he does it on the very day that the British Prime Minister announces his new proposal...
He didn't have any choice in the matter.
Of course he did. He doesn't have to do it.
If he'd refused to do it, then there would have been a constitutional
All right, well, let's talk to the constitutional expert, Sir Anthony Seldon. Now, listen, you know your history better than any of us put together. Has this happened before?
Not like this, no. And therefore, it is without precedent. The monarchs have always seen distasteful people. Sometimes they became distasteful after they were seen. So it is interesting territory. And I would agree with Petronella that he would not have seen it without the Prime Minister's endorsement. And he is clearly below the Prime Minister.
I did read today, may have even been The Spectator, actually. I did read today that in 1974, Edward Heath persuaded the Queen to go to France to endorse our entry into the EU. So that, if that is, I wasn't aware of that. If that is true, and that was what happened in the way that it was reported, that would seem to me not entirely different to this.
And doesn't that therefore, Piers, slightly undermine your argument that this was without precedent?
Well, it will make me think that I was surprised the Queen did that, and maybe she shouldn't have done. I don't think the monarchs should ever get involved with... We saw the huge row when it was reported that the Queen veered towards a view about Scottish independence.
Absolutely.
It doesn't
and
do
Michael Gove's claim at one point that she was pro-Brexit,
right,
which
so
I don't believe.
Yeah, but these things... look, they can be very self-serving, those claims, but my point is the monarch has to be impartial because the monarch represents everybody in the United Kingdom, not just singular groups of people who support a political...
But the monarch is doing his best. Charles is doing his best, in my view.
Was it smart timing is the real question?
Well, I think that history will judge this to have been a wise and a prudent thing because, Piers, this is where we'll disagree again, because this Brexit thing has gone on and on. Here is an agreement, this is my view, which which brings together most of the nation. Northern Ireland, for goodness sake, voted to remain. We just need to get over with it.
but-
I mean, we're all
but-
bored with Brexit.
But let's
We need to move on.
But the reason I have a problem with the timing, Alexandra, is that this is not a done deal yet. This is
No.
a proposal from Rishi Sunak, which has the support of the EU. But the real issue will be, say the DUP decide, you know what, we're not having this deal, and they reject it. Then you have the King supposedly embracing all this, and then the DUP saying, forget it.
Excuse me, but the DUP...
Then he's into a real political
DUP,
field.
precisely.
Hang on, Petra, you must let Alexander speak.
I'm terribly sorry.
All right.
But, I mean,
We don't have any interrupting on this programme.
but you might say it was an Argo-ready deal, because ultimately Rishi has raised the game a bit since Boris Johnson's lamentable efforts.
Yeah.
But the reality is that King Charles probably shouldn't have met Ursula von der Leyen yesterday, because the optics of it, the short-term advantage is that the Windsor Agreement, sanctioned by the King, it looks something which is given the stamp by the establishment.
Before Parliament has
Before
even
Parliament.
debated this.
And we don't know what the DUP are going to say. We don't know what we don't know what the awkward squad of the Conservatives are going to say. I mean, I'm sure we're all waiting with bated breath for Boris Johnson's view on it.
Actually, I can't think of anything I'm waiting less
Less
for
for.
than Boris
Right.
Johnson sticking his big nose into this once again.